What happens when two entertainment legends clash on live television over something so personal that it changes everything? Well, buckle up, because what went down between Dolly Parton and Queen Latifah during what was supposed to be a friendly afternoon chat show interview will leave your jaw on the floor. This wasn't your typical celebrity disagreement. This was raw, this was real, and this was absolutely explosive. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below, because trust me, you're going to want to discuss this one. So there's Dolly Parton, the undisputed queen of country music, sitting in that plush interview chair across from Queen Latifah on her talk show set. The lights are warm, the audience is buzzing with excitement, and everything seems perfect for what should have been another delightful celebrity interview. Dolly's wearing one of her signature rhinestone-studded outfits, her blonde hair perfectly coiffed, and that million-dollar smile lighting up the studio. Queen Latifah, ever the professional host, is radiating her usual charm and warmth as she prepares to dive into what everyone assumes will be a fun conversation about Dolly's latest projects. Dolly Parton, everybody. Queen Latifah announces two thunderous applause as the cameras roll. Now, Dolly, honey, it's been way too long since you've graced us with your presence on this show. You look absolutely stunning, as always. Dolly beams back at her, adjusting her sparkly jacket slightly. Well, aren't you just the sweetest thing? Dana, you know I always love coming on your show because you make everyone feel so welcome and comfortable. The audience is eating it up, and Queen Latifah leans forward with genuine interest. Now, I have to ask about your incredible career spanning over 6 decades. You've conquered music, movies, Broadway, and now you're making waves in the business world. But I'm curious about something more personal. Throughout all of this success, you've maintained this image of being everyone's favorite aunt, this wholesome country sweetheart. Is that really who you are behind closed doors, or is there more to Dolly Parton that the public doesn't see? It's an innocent enough question, the kind of thing talk show hosts ask all the time to get celebrities to open up a little bit. But something shifts in Dolly's expression, just for a split second. Her smile doesn't waver, but there's a flicker in her eyes that suggests this question hit differently than expected. Well, honey, what you see is what you get with me, Dolly responds, her voice still sweet, but with just a hint of something else underneath. I've never been one to put on airs or pretend to be something I'm not. Been the same person since I was a little girl growing up poor in the mountains of Tennessee. Queen Latifah nods approvingly, but she's not ready to let the topic go just yet. That's beautiful, and I think that authenticity is what people love about you. But I've always wondered, don't you ever get tired of having to be on all the time? I mean, the wigs, the makeup, the rhinestones, the constant performing even in interviews like this one. When do you get to just be Dolly without all the costume in the show? Now the studio audience is leaning in because this is getting interesting. Queen Latifah isn't being mean or confrontational. She's asking the kind of probing questions that good interviewers ask. But Dolly's posture changes slightly, and her hands, adorned with those famous jeweled nails, grip the arms of her chair just a little tighter. I appreciate your curiosity, Dana. I really do, Dolly says, her tone still pleasant, but noticeably cooler. But I think you might be misunderstanding something here. This isn't a costume I'm wearing, sweetheart. This isn't some character I'm playing for the cameras. This is who I am. The energy in the studio shifts palpably. Queen Latifah, ever the professional, tries to navigate back to safer territory. Oh no, I didn't mean to suggest that you're not being authentic. I just meant that everyone needs their private moments, their downtime where they can just relax and be themselves without any expectations. But Dolly isn't letting it slide. You know what I think is happening here? I think you're making assumptions about me based on how I look, how I dress, how I present myself to the world. You're assuming that because I like to wear sparkles and big hair and makeup that it must all be fake, that it must all be for show. But let me tell you something, honey. I've been dressing like this since I was old enough to pick out my own clothes. The audience is now completely silent. Sensing that this conversation has taken an unexpected turn, Queen Latifah tries to interject with a clarification, but Dolly is just getting started. I grew up with nothing, absolutely nothing, but I always knew I was meant for something bigger. And part of that something bigger was creating this image, this persona, if you want to call it that, but it came from inside me. It wasn't manufactured by some record label or some manager. This is my authentic self. And I'm a little tired of people suggesting otherwise. Queen Latifah holds up her hands in a peacekeeping gesture. Dolly, I hear what you're saying, and I respect that completely. I think there might be a misunderstanding here because I wasn't trying to suggest that your image isn't authentic. I was just curious about the person behind the legend. The person behind the legend. Dolly's voice rises just slightly, and that famous smile finally starts to crack. Dana, I am the person and I am the legend. They're not two separate things. You can't separate Dolly Parton the performer from Dolly Parton the woman because they're the same person. The cameras are still rolling, capturing every moment of this increasingly tense exchange. Queen Latifah, who has handled difficult interviews before, tries one more time to steer the conversation back on track. I completely understand that, and I think that's actually really admirable. What I was trying to get at is just that everyone has different sides to their personality. Like me, I can be Queen Latifah, the entertainer, but I'm also Dana, the private person who likes to relax at home in sweatpants. That's when Dolly really lets her have it. Well, isn't that just precious? Dolly says. And for the first time in the interview, her voice drips with sarcasm instead of sweetness. You get to be Dana in sweatpants at home, but somehow I don't get to be Dolly in rhinestones everywhere I go. You're telling me that your sweatpants version is more authentic than my rhinestone version? Queen Latifah's eyes widen slightly because she's starting to realize this has gone way beyond a simple misunderstanding. Dolly, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just trying to understand. No, let me tell you what you're trying to understand, Dolly interrupts. And now she's leaning forward in her chair, those perfectly manicured fingers pointing directly at Queen Latifah. You're trying to understand how a woman like me, who came from nothing, who built an empire with her own two hands, who's been in this business longer than most people have been alive, could possibly be genuine while looking the way I look. The studio audience is completely captivated now. This isn't just good television, this is historic television. Two powerhouse women, both legends in their own right, going head-to-head over something that clearly runs much deeper than anyone expected. Queen Latifah takes a deep breath, clearly trying to maintain her composure. Dolly, I have nothing but respect for everything you've accomplished. You're absolutely right that you've built an incredible empire, and I would never suggest otherwise. But I think we're talking past each other here. Are we, though? Dolly's voice gets sharper. Because it seems to me like you invited me on this show with some preconceived notions about who I am and what I represent. You keep talking about the real, Dolly, like there's some other version of me hiding somewhere. I'm asking the same questions I ask every guest. Queen Latifah responds, and now there's a slight edge creeping into her voice too. I ask about the person behind the public persona because audiences like to connect with celebrities on a human level. Dolly actually laughs, but there's no humor in it. Dana, honey, I think you might want to check yourself because what you're really asking is why I don't tone it down. Why I don't make myself smaller, why I don't dress more appropriately for a woman my age. That is absolutely not what I'm asking, and I think you know that. Do I? Dolly stands up from her chair now, and the entire studio goes dead silent. Because, let me ask you something, Dana. When you have male country singers on this show, do you ask them about the real person behind their cowboy hats and boots? When you interview rock stars, do you question whether their leather jackets and long hair are authentic? Or is this line of questioning something you save for women who dare to be a little too much? Queen Latifah stands up to now, clearly not backing down. First of all, yes, I do ask similar questions to all my guests, regardless of gender. And second of all, I think you're deliberately misinterpreting my questions. Am I? Dolly's voice rises another notch. Or am I just tired of being asked to explain myself to people who should know better? You want to know the real Dolly Parton? The real Dolly Parton doesn't appreciate being psychoanalyzed by someone who thinks they've got me all figured out based on my appearance. The cameras are capturing every moment of this explosive confrontation, and you can practically feel the tension through the screen. Queen Latifah, who has always prided herself on being able to handle any interview situation, is clearly struggling to regain control of the conversation. Dolly, I invited you on this show because I admire you, and I thought our audience would enjoy hearing from you. If I've offended you, that was never my intention. Your intention doesn't really matter though, does it? Dolly shoots back. What matters is the impact. Latifah's professional demeanor is starting to crack now too. You know what, Dolly? I've been nothing but respectful to you since you walked onto this stage. I've complimented your appearance, your career, your success. If you want to turn a simple interview question into some kind of personal attack, that's on you, not on me. Dolly's voice goes up another octave. You call it respectful to question everything about me? To suggest that I'm putting on some kind of act? To imply that the way I choose to present myself to the world is somehow dishonest? I never said dishonest, Queen Latifah fires back. I asked about different sides of your personality, which is a completely normal interview question, but apparently you can't handle any question that goes beyond surface-level promotion of whatever project you're here to talk about. Now, it's Dolly's turn to look shocked. I can't handle it. Dana, I've been handling questions from reporters since before you were even in the entertainment business. I've sat through interviews with everyone from Barbara Walters to Howard Stern, and I've never had anyone be as condescending as you're being right now. Condescending? Queen Latifah's voice rises to match Dolly's. I'm condescending. You're the one who's been talking down to me like I'm some amateur interviewer who doesn't know what she's doing. You're the one who's been twisting every question I ask into some kind of personal attack. The audience is watching this unfold like a tennis match, their heads turning back and forth between the two women as the argument escalates. Neither one is backing down, and it's becoming clear that this has moved far beyond the original topic of conversation. You know what your problem is, Dana? Dolly says, pointing that jeweled finger again. Your problem is that you see a woman like me, and you assume that all the glitter and glamour must be covering up something. You assume that no one could possibly be genuinely happy presenting themselves this way. Well, let me tell you something, sweetheart. I've been happy with who I am a lot longer than you've been famous. Queen Latifah's jaw drops at that last comment. Excuse me, did you just try to come for my career? Because if we're going to start comparing resumes and talking about who's been relevant longer, I'm pretty sure I can hold my own in that conversation. Dolly's eyes flash with something dangerous. Oh, honey, I've been selling out stadiums since you were in diapers. I've written thousands of songs, starred in movies, built businesses, created jobs for thousands of people. What exactly have you done besides ask invasive questions on a talk show that's been declining in ratings for the past 3 years? The studio goes completely silent. Even the camera operators seem to stop moving. Queen Latifah stares at Dolly for a long moment, and when she finally speaks, her voice is ice cold. You know what, Dolly? Queen Latifah says, her voice so cold it could freeze the studio. You just showed everyone exactly who you really are behind all that sugar and spice act. You're a bitter, insecure woman who can't handle being asked a simple question without turning it into some kind of victim narrative. The words hit Dolly like a physical blow, and for a moment, just a moment, her mask completely slips. The hurt is visible on her face before the anger takes over completely. Bitter, insecure. Dana, the only person showing their true colors here is you. You invited me onto your show just so you could tear me down on national television. I invited you here to have a conversation. Queen Latifah shoots back, but apparently you're incapable of having an adult conversation without throwing tantrums and making everything about yourself, making everything about myself. Dolly's voice cracks slightly with rage. This is supposed to be an interview about me. That's literally why I'm here. But instead of talking about my music or my projects, you decided to spend the whole time trying to psychoanalyze me like I'm some kind of case study. Queen Latifah crosses her arms defiantly. I asked you one question about authenticity, and you turned it into World War III. That says a lot more about your insecurities than it does about my interviewing style. My insecurities. Dolly takes a step closer to Queen Latifah, and the tension in the room becomes almost unbearable. Let me tell you about insecurity, Dana. Insecurity is having to tear down other women to make yourself feel better. Insecurity is using your platform to make guests feel uncomfortable instead of celebrating them. Insecurity is whatever this pathetic display has been. Pathetic display. Queen Latifah's voice goes up several decibels. The only pathetic display here is a grown woman having a meltdown because someone dared to ask her a question that wasn't scripted and pre-approved by her publicity team. Dolly laughs bitterly. Honey, if this is what you think a meltdown looks like, you clearly don't know me very well. A meltdown would be me telling this audience exactly what I think about hosts who ambush their guests with gotcha questions designed to make them look bad. Gotcha questions. Queen Latifah throws her hands up in exasperation. I asked you about your authentic self. That's literally interview 101. If that's a gotcha question to you, then maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews at all. Maybe I shouldn't, Dolly says quietly, and something in her tone makes everyone in the studio lean forward. Maybe I shouldn't subject myself to this kind of disrespect from someone who clearly has no appreciation for what I've accomplished or who I am as a person. Queen Latifah scoffs. Oh, please, spare me the martyrdom act. You came on this show to promote something just like every other celebrity who sits in that chair. Don't act like you're doing me some kind of favor by being here. You're absolutely right, Dolly says, and now she's reaching for her purse, which is sitting on the small table next to her chair. I did come here to promote something. I came here to promote my new album, my upcoming tour, my charitable foundation. But you know what? I'd rather let my work speak for itself than sit here and be insulted by someone who's clearly forgotten what respect looks like. The realization that Dolly is gathering her things starts to hit everyone at once. Queen Latifah's expression changes as she realizes this interview is about to end in the most dramatic way possible. Dolly, come on, Queen Latifah says, her tone shifting slightly. We're both professionals here. We can work through this. Professionals. Dolly slings her purse over her shoulder and smooths down her jacket. A professional wouldn't have tried to embarrass a guest on live television. A professional would have done their homework and asked questions that actually mattered instead of trying to create some kind of dramatic moment for the ratings. I wasn't trying to embarrass you. Queen Latifah protests, but her voice lacks the fire it had just moments before. I was trying to have a real conversation. No, Dana, Dolly says firmly, turning to face Queen Latifah one last time. A real conversation requires mutual respect. And you lost mine about 10 minutes ago when you decided that questioning my authenticity was more important than celebrating my achievements. The audience is completely silent now, watching this legendary confrontation reach its climax. Dolly takes one more look around the studio, her gaze lingering on the cameras that have captured every moment of this explosive exchange. You know what the real shame is? Dolly continues, her voice steady now but filled with disappointment. I've been a fan of yours for years. I've watched your movies, listened to your music, respected your career. I came on this show thinking we were going to have a wonderful conversation between two women who've made it in a tough business. Instead, I got ambushed by someone who seems to think that tearing people down is good television. Dolly, if you walk out of here like this, you're proving my point about not being able to handle tough questions. Dolly stops dead in her tracks and slowly turns back around. Tough questions. Dana, I've answered tough questions about my marriage, my career choices, my appearance, my politics, my beliefs. I've been asked about everything from my bust size to my bank account, and I've answered with grace and humor. But what you did today wasn't tough questioning. It was disrespectful, and I don't have to sit here and take it. So you're just going to run away. Queen Latifah challenges. I'm not running away from anything, Dolly replies coolly. I'm walking away from a situation that stopped being professional the moment. You decided that attacking me was more important than interviewing me. There's a difference between running and refusing to be disrespected. With that, Dolly Parton, the queen of country music, starts walking toward the exit of Queen Latifah's talk show set. The cameras follow her every step as she moves with dignity and purpose. Her rhinestone jacket catching the studio lights one last time, the audience doesn't know whether to applaud, gasp, or sit in stunned silence. Queen Latifah watches her go, clearly struggling with whether to call after her or let her leave. Dolly, she finally calls out. This doesn't have to end like this. Without turning around, Dolly raises one perfectly manicured hand and waves goodbye. Yes, Dana, it does. And with that, Dolly Parton walks off Queen Latifah's show, leaving behind one of the most dramatic celebrity interview moments in television history. The cameras capture Queen Latifah standing alone on her set, clearly shaken by what just transpired, while the audience sits in absolute shock at what they've just witnessed. What started as a routine celebrity interview became an explosive confrontation that revealed the raw emotions and professional tensions that can exist between two powerful women in the entertainment industry. The clash between Dolly's defense of her authentic self and Queen Latifah's probing questions escalated into something neither woman expected, creating a moment of television that will be talked about for years to come. So what do you think? Was Queen Latifah justified in her line of questioning, or did she cross a line with how she approached Dolly? Make sure to subscribe for more incredible celebrity stories like this one, and comment below with your thoughts on who you think was in the right during this explosive confrontation.